Artificial kindness is a heavy cloak we often wear, stitched together by societal expectations, fear of rejection, and the need for approval. It is the smile we force when we're tired, the yes we say when we mean no, and the compliments we give without conviction. Over time, this facade becomes suffocating, a weight we carry not out of love or compassion, but out of obligation. This burden doesn't just strain the person performing it, it also diminishes the value of kindness itself. Acts meant to comfort or connect instead ring hollow, their insincerity felt by all involved. Kindness that is coerced by social norms, internal guilt, or external pressure lacks the vitality that makes it meaningful. It becomes a currency exchanged for peace, favor, or avoidance of conflict, rather than a genuine expression of care. Carrying this burden is exhausting because it demands constant self-monitoring. Every word, every gesture, every decision is filtered through the question, will this make me seem kind? It's a performance that drains energy, leaving little room for spontaneity or authenticity. This perpetual striving to appear kind can disconnect us from our true selves and from the very people we aim to please. Artificial kindness also perpetuates a cycle of emotional dishonesty. It teaches others to expect a version of us that isn't real, setting a precedent that we cannot sustain. Worse, it may inadvertently enable others to avoid their own growth, cushioning them from truths they may need to hear or challenges they must face. The result is a superficial harmony that masks deeper discontent. True kindness is an unforced expression of our genuine understanding and connection with others. It arises naturally when we are attuned to the present moment and the shared human experience, free from the constraints of societal expectations or personal agendas. This form of kindness is spontaneous and sincere, emerging effortlessly from a place of empathy and compassion. Unlike artificial kindness, which is often a calculated response aimed at achieving a specific outcome or conforming to social norms, true kindness does not seek recognition or reward. It is not performed out of obligation or a desire to be perceived in a certain way. Instead, it flows from an authentic desire to alleviate suffering and foster genuine connections. Embracing the true nature of kindness requires self-awareness and a deep understanding of our own motivations. It involves recognizing when our actions are driven by ego or a need for approval, and consciously choosing to act from a place of sincerity. This authenticity not only enriches our interactions with others, but also cultivates a sense of inner peace and fulfillment. In essence, true kindness is a reflection of our inner state of being. When we are at peace with ourselves and in harmony with the world around us, kindness flows naturally, without effort or pretense. It becomes not just an action we perform, but an integral part of who we are. Kindness as a mask is a delicate and deceptive phenomenon, often worn to shield our true selves from the world. It is the veneer of politeness we use to hide our discomfort, the eager smile we wear to suppress our frustration, and the warm tone we adopt to avoid conflict or rejection. Beneath this mask lies a complex web of emotions, fear, insecurity, and sometimes even resentment that we dare not reveal. This form of kindness is not a reflection of genuine compassion, but a strategy of self-preservation. It allows us to navigate social situations without vulnerability, presenting a version of ourselves that feels safe and acceptable. By appearing agreeable, we protect ourselves from judgment, criticism, or confrontation, yet this very act distances us from authenticity and connection. The mask of kindness often becomes a default mode, one we wear so frequently that we might forget it's there. It can even create an illusion of virtue, convincing us that our actions are noble when they are, in fact, rooted in avoidance. Over time, this dissonance takes its toll. We may feel a growing sense of emptiness as our inner truth is suppressed to maintain the facade. Furthermore, using kindness as a mask risks perpetuating superficial relationships. Others may interact with the persona we project rather than our true selves, creating shallow connections that lack depth and meaning. By hiding behind kindness, we inadvertently deny others the opportunity to truly know us, and we limit our own capacity for genuine intimacy and understanding. The trap of approval seeking is a subtle yet pervasive force that can shape our behavior and interactions, often without us realizing it. At its core, it is the constant desire to be liked, validated, or accepted by others, a craving that drives us to mold ourselves to fit into their expectations. This pursuit of approval can manifest in countless ways: agreeing when we disagree, overextending ourselves to please others, or tempering our emotions to maintain harmony. While seeking approval may feel rewarding in the short term, it comes at a significant cost. The more we strive to meet the perceived expectations of others, the more we lose touch with our own desires, values, and identity. We become actors in a performance we didn't consciously sign up for, playing roles dictated by the fear of rejection or disapproval. This relentless quest for acceptance can lead to a profound sense of disconnection from ourselves and from the people we are trying to impress. Relationships built on the foundation of approval seeking are inherently fragile, as they depend on maintaining an image rather than fostering genuine understanding. Instead of true connection, we create a cycle of dependence where our self-worth becomes contingent on the reactions and opinions of others. Approval seeking can also make us more susceptible to manipulation. When our primary motivation is to be liked or accepted, we may compromise our boundaries, values, or even our well-being to avoid disapproval. This vulnerability erodes our sense of autonomy and leaves us at the mercy of others' expectations. Ironically, the more we chase approval, the less authentic we appear. People sense when interactions lack sincerity, and the very connection we seek becomes elusive. This pursuit of external validation becomes a trap, a cycle that distances us from true acceptance, which can only arise when we are unapologetically ourselves. Empathy and kindness, though often used interchangeably, are fundamentally different in nature and purpose. Empathy is the ability to feel or understand another person's emotions and experiences as if they were your own. It is an internal process, a deep resonance with another's feelings that requires no action to exist. Kindness, on the other hand, is an external expression, an action or gesture meant to alleviate suffering, offer support, or spread goodwill. While the two often complement each other, they do not always align. Empathy is about connection. It demands that we step into someone else's world, even if it is uncomfortable or unfamiliar. It requires listening without judgment, observing without assumptions, and feeling without immediately acting. Empathy creates a bridge, allowing us to truly understand the depth of another's emotions. But understanding alone does not necessarily lead to action. We may feel empathy for someone but choose not to act kindly, whether due to circumstances, limitations, or a deeper understanding that immediate intervention is not what they need. Kindness, in contrast, is kindness, while often a force for good, has the potential to enable weakness when it is applied indiscriminately or without discernment. In our eagerness to help or protect others, we can unintentionally undermine their growth, resilience, and capacity to face challenges. Acts of kindness, when overextended, can create dependency, shield individuals from the consequences of their actions, or prevent them from developing the strength needed to navigate life's complexities. When we repeatedly step in to solve problems, offer comfort, or shield others from discomfort, we risk sending the message that they are incapable of managing difficulties on their own. This form of overkindness, though well-intentioned, can stifle the very growth it seeks to support. It deprives individuals of the opportunity to learn from failure, build resilience, and develop the skills necessary to overcome adversity. Kindness can also inadvertently reinforce avoidance behaviors. By cushioning others from the natural consequences of their choices, we may enable patterns of inaction, irresponsibility, or reliance. Over time, this dynamic not only weakens their sense of autonomy, but also fosters an imbalance in relationships, as one person becomes overly reliant on another's support or intervention. Additionally, kindness without boundaries can lead to misplaced priorities. where the immediate desire to alleviate discomfort takes precedence over the long-term well-being of the individual. For example, constantly rescuing someone from challenges may seem kind in the moment, but denies them the chance to build the emotional and practical strength needed to handle future situations. There is also the risk of fostering entitlement. When kindness is offered unconditionally, without accountability or reciprocity, it can create expectations of continued support, diminishing the value of the effort and potentially leading to a lack of appreciation or respect. In such cases, kindness becomes less of a gift and more of an expectation, which undermines its true purpose and meaning. The balance between honesty and kindness is a delicate art, requiring a thoughtful interplay of truthfulness and compassion. Honesty, at its core, is about expressing what is real and authentic, even when it is uncomfortable or unwelcome. Kindness, meanwhile, seeks to ensure that this truth is delivered in a way that respects the dignity and feelings of others. Striking this balance is essential, as leaning too heavily on one side risks causing harm or diminishing the value of the other. Unfiltered honesty, while principled, can be harsh and wounding if delivered without consideration for its impact. A truth spoken without empathy can alienate, humiliate, or even damage relationships, regardless of its validity. In contrast, excessive kindness may lead to sugarcoating, avoidance, or even dishonesty, all in an effort to spare someone's feelings. This can result in confusion, enable harmful patterns, or prevent necessary growth and understanding. Balancing honesty and kindness begins with intention. The purpose of speaking truth should never be to assert superiority or to wound, but to foster understanding, growth, or resolution. Kindness, in this context, becomes the method through which truth is communicated, softening its edges without diluting its essence. This balance also requires awareness of timing and delivery. Some truths are best shared in moments of calm, when emotions are less likely to cloud reception. The words we choose and the tone we use can greatly influence how our honesty is perceived. Even difficult truths can be received with gratitude if they are framed in a way that prioritizes respect and care. Navigating this equilibrium often involves recognizing the needs and capacities of the person on the receiving end. While honesty calls for clarity, kindness asks us to consider what the other person is ready to hear and how they might process it. This doesn't mean withholding truths that need to be spoken, but rather presenting them in a way that they can be absorbed and understood without undue harm. Stop performing, start being is an invitation to shed the layers of pretense, expectation, and self-consciousness that often shape our behavior. Performance is the act of presenting ourselves in ways we believe others expect, driven by the desire to fit in, impress, or gain approval. It is a constant calculation, choosing words, actions, and expressions to conform to a role rather than reflect our true selves. Being, on the other hand, is effortless. It is the state of existing authentically, unburdened by the need to control perception or outcomes. Performance creates a divide between who we are and how we present ourselves. The effort to maintain this facade is exhausting, as it requires constant vigilance and self-editing. It fosters a disconnection not only from ourselves, but also from those around us, as our interactions become shaped by artifice rather than genuine connection. Being, in contrast, demands that we embrace vulnerability. It means showing up as we are, imperfect, honest, and unguarded. This requires courage, as authenticity risks rejection, misunderstanding, or judgment. Yet it also offers liberation, as the pressure to perform dissipates, leaving space for deeper self-acceptance and more meaningful relationships. When we perform, we become reactive, tailoring our behavior to external cues and expectations. In being, we shift inward, allowing our actions to stem from a place of integrity and self-awareness. This shift fosters a sense of alignment between our inner truth and outward expression, creating a life that feels more congruent and fulfilling. Moreover, abandoning performance invites others to do the same. Authenticity is contagious. When we drop the mask, we create a safe space for those around us to lower their own defenses. This paves the way for interactions that are grounded in trust, honesty, and mutual respect, free from the distortions of pretense or posturing. The liberation in saying no is a profound act of reclaiming our autonomy, boundaries, and self-respect. For many, saying no feels like an unnatural or difficult task, often fraught with guilt, fear of rejection, or concern for disappointing others. We are conditioned to believe that saying yes is the path to approval, connection, and success, yet the truth is that unchecked agreement leads to depletion, resentment, and loss of self. Saying no is not a rejection of others, but a declaration of self-worth and the recognition that our time, energy, and emotional resources are valuable. When we say no, we set a clear boundary, signaling that we cannot be everything to everyone. This simple act protects our space, ensuring that our commitments align with our values and priorities. It is a refusal to be pulled in every direction by external demands and expectations, a refusal to sacrifice our well-being to maintain a facade of constant availability or compliance. The liberation comes not just in the action of saying no, but in the deeper realization that we have the right to choose how we engage with the world around us. It is an acknowledgement that our needs and desires are just as important as anyone else's, and that we are worthy of respect and consideration. By embracing no, we regain control over our time and energy, making room for the things and people that truly matter to us. Saying no also challenges the social programming that equates people pleasing with virtue and success. It defies the belief that we must constantly say yes in order to be liked or valued. In doing so, it frees us from the burden of living up to others' expectations and opens the door to more authentic, meaningful connections. Moreover, saying no encourages others to respect our boundaries and fosters. Tough love also requires emotional clarity. It is not motivated by anger, frustration, or a desire to control. Instead, it stems from a place of deep concern for the person's future, their ability to take ownership of their choices, and their potential for change. It is a balanced approach that combines firmness with compassion, knowing when to say no or step back, but always with the intention of empowering the other person to learn, grow, and ultimately take responsibility for their actions. This approach can be especially difficult in relationships where the line between support and enabler is thin. Loving someone does not always mean rescuing them from their mistakes, but sometimes it means allowing them to face the consequences of their choices. By stepping aside, we create the space for them to learn, mature, and grow on their own terms, rather than perpetuating a cycle of dependency or avoidance. Tough love is a delicate balance between kindness and firmness, compassion and accountability. It challenges both the giver and the receiver to confront truths and embrace growth, even when the path is difficult or painful. It is a reminder that sometimes the most loving thing we can do for someone is to refuse to shield them from the hard lessons they must face. Kindness without boundaries is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it can appear as the purest form of selflessness and compassion, a ceaseless willingness to give and help without hesitation or condition. However, when kindness is offered without clear boundaries, it can quickly devolve into self-sacrifice, burnout, and even enabling behaviors that do not serve anyone's highest good. Without boundaries, kindness risks becoming a tool for manipulation or an expression of unchecked people-pleasing, where the giver's needs, feelings, and well-being are disregarded in favor of others. The absence of boundaries in kindness often leads to a depletion of energy and emotional resources. The person offering the kindness may initially feel fulfillment or joy from their generosity, but over time, the lack of limits causes resentment and exhaustion. Without the ability to say no or recognize their own needs, the giver becomes a reservoir that is perpetually drained, leaving little for themselves or others who might need their true energy and attention. Furthermore, kindness without boundaries can inadvertently enable unhealthy dynamics. When we extend kindness indiscriminately, we may shield others from facing the consequences of their actions, thereby preventing them from learning, growing, or taking responsibility. This can create a cycle of dependency, where people expect endless support without ever taking ownership of their own challenges or needs. In this way, kindness without boundaries becomes a crutch, allowing others to remain stuck in patterns of immaturity or irresponsibility. The key to true kindness lies in the recognition that it must be balanced with self-respect and an awareness of one's own limitations. Boundaries help to ensure that kindness is sustainable, meaningful, and healthy for both the giver and the receiver. They allow us to offer our compassion in a way that is aligned with our values, priorities, and capacity. By knowing when to give and when to step back, we preserve our own well-being while still showing up for others in a way that is intentional, thoughtful, and truly helpful. Kindness without boundaries may feel virtuous, but it is ultimately a distorted form of generosity that can lead to emotional depletion, relational imbalances, and a lack of real growth for both parties. True kindness honors the giver as much as it does the receiver, and this requires clear limits that allow for self-care, honesty, and mutual respect. The paradox of authenticity lies in the tension between being true to oneself and the need for social connection, approval, and acceptance. On the surface, authenticity seems like an uncomplicated pursuit, a call to live in alignment with one's true self, to express thoughts and feelings openly, and to engage with the world without pretense. However, in practice, authenticity is fraught with contradictions, as it requires navigating the delicate balance between remaining true to one's own nature and fitting into the social structures we inhabit. One of the core challenges of authenticity is that our true selves are not fixed. We are complex, multifaceted beings shaped by experience, culture, relationships, and the ever-evolving context of our lives. To be authentic, then, is not simply to express a static version of who we are, but to constantly explore, adjust, and evolve in response to our inner experiences and the outer world. This fluidity creates a paradox, as the very act of being true to ourselves is never a one-time declaration. It is an ongoing process that requires awareness, reflection, and adaptation. Authenticity also becomes paradoxical when it collides with the desire for approval or acceptance from others. In a world that often values conformity, standing firm in one's true self can lead to rejection, isolation, or misunderstanding. This can create a conflict between our genuine self-expression and the instinctual desire to belong. The fear of judgment or exclusion can make authenticity seem risky or even dangerous, as it requires courage to express who we are without the certainty of how others will respond. Furthermore, the pursuit of authenticity itself can sometimes lead to inauthenticity. When we become too focused on the idea of being authentic, we might begin to perform authenticity itself, trying to appear true to ourselves in a way that satisfies the expectations of others or the ideals we have created in our minds. In this sense, the pursuit of authenticity can sometimes trap us in another form of social performance, where the very act of being authentic becomes a role to play rather than a genuine expression of who we are. The paradox deepens when we consider the role of context in authenticity. Our behavior and expressions change depending on the environment, the people around us, and the roles we are expected to play. Is it possible to be authentic in every situation? Or does true authenticity require us to selectively express different aspects of ourselves at different times? To live authentically is not to abandon these nuances, but to be aware of how we choose to show up in the world without losing sight of our core values and inner truth. Ultimately, the paradox of authenticity forces us to grapple with the tension between individuality and interconnectedness, between self-expression and social harmony. It challenges us to understand that being true to ourselves is not a static destination, but a dynamic, evolving journey, a balancing act between who we are becoming, and how we relate to the world around us. Kindness as a reflection is the idea that the way we treat others mirrors the way we view ourselves and the world around us. At its core, kindness is an outward expression of inner states, our thoughts, emotions, and beliefs about who we are and how we relate to others. When we are kind, it is not merely a reaction to the needs of others, but a reflection of how we perceive the world and our place within it. In this sense, acts of kindness are deeply personal, often revealing more about the giver than the receiver. If we are at peace with ourselves, grounded in self-acceptance and understanding, our kindness towards others will likely flow naturally, without expectation or agenda. Kindness becomes a genuine offering, an expression of our belief in the inherent goodness of others. However, when we harbor resentment, insecurity, or self-doubt, these feelings may also be reflected in the way we extend kindness or fail to do so. A lack of self-compassion often translates into an inability to show true kindness to others. We may be less patient, more judgmental, or more likely to withhold support as we struggle to offer something we have not yet given ourselves.